Okay, so welcome to the home edition of the Hangover Cure. Today we're going to be digging into some hip love for you. Now if you like these videos and you like the tips that we provide, please follow us on Instagram. That's at Active Life Conditioning, and my personal account is at Custom Fit Wellness Canada. So for today's session, this isn't essential, but some of you might want to use a towel as an extra bolster for some of the movements that we're going to do. So you can keep that on hand if you think it's necessary for yourself. So we're going to jump into this right now, and we're just going to start off real easy. We're going to be sitting down. You're going to have your feet roughly about shoulder width apart, knees bent in front of you. You're going to place your hands behind your back. We're going to expand those chests nice and tall. Think about the head punching through the ceiling as per usual. From here, all we're going to do is we're going to rotate. Now, every motion has got to be intentional and thoughtful as we're going through this. So we're rotating those hips, or those knees down towards the floor and rotating those hips. So we're just going to go back and forth. Nice intentional movements here. Just going to get a little bit of lubrication into those joints and those hips before we get started. So, with this motion, what we're going to end up doing is stopping in that down position on your tighter side first. Then we're going to be adding in some isometric contractions with it. With the isometric contractions, I want you guys to slowly and progressively add that tension into the ground. So it's not just bang all at once. We want to do it nice, slow, and controlled. The more that you add in terms of tension, then the deeper the stretch is going to be, the more you're going to feel it. So be kind to yourself, or you can be mean, but be careful with it because you can get really deep into the joint capsule with this sort of a technique. Okay, so here we go. So I've rotated my hips down into the ground here, or my knee down into the ground. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this leg, I'm going to press it through the ground. So I'm squeezing, using my inner thigh muscles, and trying to rotate my leg into the ground here. So I'm going to hold it for maybe about 5 seconds, progressively squeezing, getting a little bit stronger with the contraction throughout. When I release, I'm going to feel a little bit of slackness and looseness. I'm going to try and sink this hip down towards the ground a little bit deeper to that little point where I can feel a good little stretch there. From here, I'm once again just going to squeeze that leg into the ground. Going to hold it again for maybe about 5-6 seconds. Progressively increasing that tension to whatever my comfort level is. Then I'm slowly relaxing, again, sinking that hip a little bit deeper into it, and then one last time, again, adding in that contraction, holding it for a few seconds, slowly relaxing, and then I'm going to rotate out of that position, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So again, I'm rotating into the ground, squeezing, using those muscles, contracting for about 5 seconds, and then we're slowly going to release. Now I'm going to take this hip and try to sink it back into the ground, putting this hip into a little bit deeper internal rotation. Once again, squeeze that leg into the ground. We're going to hold it there for about 5 seconds here, and then we're slowly going to relax, and one last time, rotating that into the ground, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Giving it some good tension, whatever your comfort level is. Slowly relax, sink a little bit deeper, and then we're going to come out of it. Perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide into our 90-90 glute stretch. So we talked about this, if you follow the primal burn stuff, the leg workout we did. We started off loosening our hips up with this. So the closer in your legs are tucked, the easier it is to sit into this position. Again, the farther apart you are, the more difficult it's going to be, but the more stretch will be provided in that position. Here's where the towel might come into play here. So for some of you guys, this might be a little bit uncomfortable. You might not be able to get down. You can slide that underneath your hips. You can use a yoga block as well if you have that available to you, or any sort of bolster. But the towel can help work. It'll lift up your hips a little bit, make it a little bit easier for you to sit in that position. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with that same glute stretch that we did for the primal burn video. So here, we're going to get nice and tall through the crown of that head, all the way down to that tip bone. Again, I want to lead through the lower part of my head. See, I'm rolling my hips forward into it, leading there and not with my head or shoulders. So from here, we're getting super tall. We're going to glide over top of that thigh knee area, and we're slowly going to go down until you feel that first little bit of tension or resistance. From there, I'm going to press this entire leg through the ground, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Again, progressively getting strong with the contraction, just to whatever your comfort level is. I'm slowly going to relax, and I'm going to sink a little bit deeper into it to that next barrier. From here, once again, press, 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 squeeze, slowly relax, and sink down to that third barrier. And then once again, we're squeezing into it, getting nice and deep into that stretch. And then from here, we're going to sink a little bit deeper if you have it. And then from here, if you want to remove those hands again, you can. And then you're going to press through that thigh all the way up to that top position, bring you back up. From here, we're going to do that movement with no hands. So we're going to take that head, we're going to pull ourselves all the way down. So again, leading with those hips. Keeping the chest nice and proud and tall. We're going all the way down, nice, slow and controlled. Follow my tempo, try not to rush it, right to that point where you feel a little bit of a stretch for you. From here, we're going to press that front thigh through the ground, holding this position for maybe about 5 seconds or so, and then we're going to press ourselves right out of it. We're going to repeat that again. So slowly, pulling down, pulling down, pulling down. It's an active motion. I'm using my hip flexors here to help out. I'm getting to that point. I'm pressing my thigh through the ground isometrically, holding this position. Hold, hold, hold. And then we're going to press through that ground, squeezing back up to that top position. Do we have one more left in us? Of course we do. So here we go. We're going to pull ourselves down. Pull, 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 pull. Right down to that position. Staying with my tempo, not rushing. We're driving this leg through the ground. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Excellent. And then we're going to press all the way back up to that top position. Perfect. So what we're going to do now from this position is we're going to work on a little bit of love within these deeper hip flexors as well as adductor muscles and with some of the deep rotational muscles of the hip. So here's where the towel might come into handy again. What we're going to be trying to do first is rotating on this knee and trying to lift this ankle off the ground like so. So if you don't quite have the flexibility or you're a little uncomfortable with it, we start off down onto the elbow. This will give you some space to lift that foot off. If you're super tight like I am, you might need this bolster here. And you're going to place this underneath that knee or thigh. That creates a little bit of a deficit so that you can actually get some movement and lift out of that leg. So I'm going to demonstrate that with the bolster for this motion. And if you don't need one, then you don't need to use it. But we want to keep this knee on the ground if that's the way that you're doing it. Okay, so try not to lift that whole leg. So from here, what we're going to do is we're starting off. Again, try to stay nice and tall through this torso, space between the hips and the rib cage through there. So keeping that knee on the ground, we're going to take this leg and we're going to rotate that guy up as high as we can. We're going to squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. We're going to hold this position and just love it because it feels so good. From here, slowly placing it back down on the ground. Now we're going to push this leg into the ground. So squeeze, 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 squeeze. We're creating an opposite contraction. Now, when we lift this guy off the ground again, should be able to get a little bit more. We're getting a bit of a stronger contraction now. So we're holding this position for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly release that. And again, pressing down. If you're getting some crampiness throughout this whole routine, that's cool beans, man. It means you're working hard. We want to keep that up. If you need to stop the movement and shake out a little bit, then go for it. But then come right back into it, okay? One more time. We're doing that lift off, up, 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 squeeze, 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 holding that position. Awesome. And then slowly down, giving again some of that opposite love. Squeezing through the ground, holding it for about 5 seconds or so. And then we're slowly going to release and relax. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this position now. We want to get this whole thigh off the ground. We want to keep the shin parallel to the ground when we're doing it. So now the lift off is going to look like that. So we're getting a bit more into the hip flexors with this one as well. Okay? Now, if you're a real hot shot, you might want to put the towel underneath this side and try to lift off of that towel. But for a lot of people, the floor is going to be a good place to be. If you need to lean back a little bit for this one, by all means do. Just watch out that you're not folding your spine up too much. So we want to try and keep good neutral position as best as we can for this. All right, so here we go. Nice tall position once again. That full lift off, and here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Beautiful. Placing that guy back down on the ground, pressing through the ground, using those glute muscles. 2, 3, 4, 5. Awesome. We're going back up again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Back down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And right back up again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Last time down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Beautiful. So now we're going to turn our attention to this back leg here that's just been hanging out, having a good time. So with this back leg, we're going to start off with just trying to lift this ankle off the ground, like so, but without using your hands. So it's going to come off the ground like that. So we want to try not to compensate, leaning too much forward and crimping up through the torso here. So again, you might want to start off in that elbow position. That'll give you a little more space to do the lift off. The other thing again is taking this towel bolster, placing it underneath that knee, and now you've created a little bit of a deficit so you can get some movement out of that position. So I'm going to leave this under here for this round, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to be pressing into the ground, and we're going to be doing the lift off. So we'll start with that lift off first, and here we go. So lift off, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nice contraction through there, and then rotating it back down to the ground, squeezing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once again, we're going to do that lift off. Awesome. Place it into position. Some of you people are going to get some cramping here right about now. Awesome. Keep it up though. 2, 3, 4, 5. Slowly back down. Again, compress through there. Good. Watch out for that torso again. Make sure you're not crimping up too much as you're doing this movement. Try to stay nice and tall. Keep breathing. Here we go. Up again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and slowly down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. So, just like with this side, we're going to progress this a little bit, lifting the entire leg off the ground. So once again, if you think you're a hot shot, you might want to place that guy underneath there and try to do the full lift off the towel, so it's a little bit more of a challenge. For most of you, the ground is going to be good enough. And for some of you, you might need to open up a little bit further to perform that lift off. Once again, we don't want to lift off like this where we're crimping ourselves up. So we want to stay nice and tall through that torso. So from here, we want to keep this shin relatively parallel to the ground as we do the lift off. And ready for it? Here it is. So the knee's going to be in line with the hip, and up we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Beautiful. Place it down on the ground, nice and gentle. That's your leg. Squeeze. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. Then we're going back up again. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. Back down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. Again, stay long here when you do that lift off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and place it back down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Awesome. So now we got to do that same sequence on the other side, but we've got a fun way of getting there. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this guy. You're going to lift it off the ground. We're going to float it. We're going to extend, 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 extend. We want to keep that leg floating. If you need to be back here on your elbow, you can be back here on your elbow. We're still holding this guy. My knee's pointing this way, my foot's pointing this way. We don't want to rotate this just yet. We want to hold it there until you feel a nice little burn. From here, now we're going to rotate. We're going to sit down on both sit bones. I'm still holding this leg up nice and tall. Here's what we're going to do with this guy. We're going to take it, we're going to rotate it out. From here, we're going to go out just as wide as you can, keeping yourself nice and tall, trying to maintain a good neutral spine here. Still hanging out here, we're just holding it, you're following along, we're having a good time. Who knows what the count is right now, but it's fun. We're gonna take this guy, we're gonna rotate back, bring it to center. We got one more thing to do. We're gonna take this whole thigh, so knee as well as foot, we're gonna rotate it in, and we're gonna try to glide that out to the side, just as far as you possibly can. Ooh, that's gonna burn deep into that hip muscle. We're gonna hang out here for a couple of seconds, giving that guy some love as well. Then we're gonna come back to that center position, nice and tall, bring it in to that butterfly position. From here, we're gonna do the same thing with this leg. We're gonna extend it out. We're just gonna hang out here for a second or two. Gotta give that guy a little bit of love. We're gonna take this entire thigh, rotate it out. We're gonna squeeze it out to the side. Just hang out for a bit, enjoy this position. Remember, your hips are important. You gotta give them some love. So from here, rotating that guy back to the top, into this top position. We're gonna take this whole foot knee, rotate from that hip, try to glide out to the side as best as you can. So you don't wanna compensate with your body here, just go to wherever your joint's gonna let you go to. We're gonna hold it, you'll know, it's gonna feel terrible in that hip. Everything's gonna wanna ball up and cramp. That means you're doing it right. So from here, coming back to that center position, hanging out just for another second or two. We're taking this guy down to the ground, coming out to the side, right? We forgot about this position. So staying nice and long, if you need to drop to your elbow, you can. Keeping that knee forward and the foot forward as well. We're gonna float that position just for a couple of seconds before taking that guy and bringing it down. Okay, now we're in our opposite 90-90. I'm just gonna reposition a little bit here. So I'm back in the center of the frame, and we're gonna do the same sequence that we did on the other side with this side. So here we go. We started off with that nice tall position and that 90-90, warming up this glute over here. So once again, we're gonna be going over top of that thigh, nice proud and tall through the crown of that head, leading with those hips first, right? So from here, we're slowly going down until you get to that first barrier. From here, driving that thigh through the ground. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. And then slowly relaxing, sinking a little bit deeper in. Oh, that feels good. Now we're gonna press through the ground again. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Relax, sink down to that third barrier. I like to say we're taking up the slack there. And again, pressing that thigh through the ground. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. We're going one last time, sinking in a little bit more if you have it. You're gonna remove those hands if you can. Press that thigh through the ground. Squeeze yourself back up to that top position. We're going for 3 repetitions here. Nice and tall. You're slowly pulling yourself down into that lower position. Sinking, sinking, sinking. We're gonna pause there. Nice and tall and long with that back, right? And then from here, squeeze through the ground. Press yourself back up to that top position. Once again, here we go. Sliding down into that position. Good, we're gonna hit that spot. We're pausing, driving that thigh through the ground. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. And then we're gonna push a little bit harder so that we squeeze all the way up to that top position. Beautiful. So from here, we're gonna get into the rotation of that hip again. So this is the one where we're trying to lift this ankle off the ground, keeping that knee down. So again, if you need to, dropping down to that elbow to get that ankle lift. And then the other option, of course, is taking that towel or bolster, yoga block, whatever it is you have, placing it under that knee, giving yourself a little bit of deficit so that you have some help for that. So from here, nice tall position, we're gonna lift that ankle off the ground and go for it. And we're squeezing it up there for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Place it back down on the ground, press it through the ground. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Beautiful. Once again, we're going to do that lift up. Stay tall through the torso. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Back down on the ground. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And up again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and back down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Beautiful. So I'm going to remove the bolster for myself, and then we're going to get into lifting that entire shin off the ground, trying to keep it parallel to the ground, utilizing those hip muscles. So here we go. That full lift off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And pressing this entire structure through the ground. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, staying nice and tall. We're back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And back down. Squeeze. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got one more repetition. Let's go for it. Up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Beautiful. Okay, so once again, we're going to turn our attention to this back leg. We want to try to get that lift off with that ankle again. So again, if you need to use the bolster there to help out a little bit, you can place that bolster underneath that back knee, or you can drop down to that elbow, or maybe you want to do a little bit of both. Choice is up to you. Make it as challenging as was comfortable for you. Okay, so right here, we're going to do that ankle lift off first, and let's go for it. Squeezing that guy up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and squeezing down. So remember, watch out for the compensation there through that torso. We want to make sure we're staying as long as we can through there, and we're not crimping up too much with that. Back up again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Beautiful. And back down. 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got one more repetition here. Using those small little hip muscles, those stabilizers that we never really use. 3, 4, 5. And back down. 2, 3, 4, 5. Beautiful. And we got one more thing to do here in this position, and that is that full shin lift off and the press through the ground. So here we go. We're going to take this guy and do that full lift off again. If you need to drop down to the elbow, you can. Otherwise, hang out nice and tall. 2, 3, 4, 5, and then pressing the whole thing back down. Squeeze. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and back up again. Good. So when you're in this position, we want this knee to be in line with the hip. We will try not to let it creep forward too much. Open up that hip so that you're getting some extension out of that joint at the same time. All right? And then back down. Squeeze. 2, 3, 4, 5. And here we go again. Back up. Last time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And back down. Squeezing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Beautiful. Now, I don't want to finish like this, so we're going to transfer to that center position. I'm going to take this leg, do a lift off, extend it, rotate, both sit bones on the ground, bringing it back to my center butterfly, and ta-da, there we go. So that's going to be the first little segment of this. Let's transfer into the second segment. That was a lot of hip flexion, glute stuff. Now we want to get into opening up the hips a little bit from that front end. So if you need a little bit of a thicker pad for your knee, you might want to run and get that now, or you can use that towel to place it under there for a little bit of extra support. So here, we're going to start off in that half kneeling position. Once again, when we do the isometric contraction, be careful with it because you can get really deep into it. So you're going to squeeze, but only squeeze as much as what's comfortable for you. Okay? So, again, nice and tall from the crown of the head through that tailbone in half kneeling. Quick little note and reminder is from this position, head, shoulders, hips, they're all going to start stack over top of that knee. Once we start to glide and move, I'm going to lead with the hips. So not my chest, not my head and shoulders, but the hips are going to lead. These guys are going to stay stacked on top. I want to ensure the extension comes out of that hip joint, as you can see here, as opposed to my lower back arching and squeezing through, but still staying in a pike position from that hip. Very key, this is how you get into the hip flexors and not low back stuff, okay? So, here we go. We're going to start off in that half kneeling position. You might have to adjust this foot a little bit further out depending on your flexibility and the length of that thigh bone. From here, square hips, square shoulders, nice and tall. We're going to clamp that front foot into the ground. We want good foot contact, and we want to pull ourselves down into that extended position with these hips. So from here, nice and tall, gliding. I'm going to pull myself down until I feel a little bit of a stretch. From here, now I'm going to scissor those legs. I'm pulling this heel back, driving this knee forward, holding in my pee and my poo, and that head is going up through the ceiling. So we're squeezing, squeezing, squeezing. My glutes are engaged through here, and then I'm going to relax. And I'm going to take up that slack, sink a little bit deeper. Once again, I'm going to scissor, squeeze those legs, hold everything in, hold it for about 5 seconds. Should feel a nice little burn in this position. It's going to feel amazing. And then from here, you're going to take up that slack again as you sink a little bit deeper. Last barrier. Once again, squeeze, 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 squeeze. Relax, sink a little deeper. And from here, we're going to press through the ground and squeeze out up to that top position. We're going to take the same leg now. We're going to open it up maybe about 45 degrees or so. So I want my foot, knee, thigh bone, shin bone, all the long bones to be pointed in that same direction. I want my hips and shoulders to stay squared up. They're going to stay facing that front position, so I'm opening up like this. Okay, so we're not turning or rotating into the thigh. The other big thing is the extension of this hip. So we don't want to sit back and pike with it as we glide down. We want to keep that guy open. So a lot of the times when we start to open up that thigh, what I start to see are people piking back and gliding down. So you're not getting into that hip the way we really want to. So make sure you're keeping that guy extended as you glide forward and down and not just to the side. Okay? So here we go. Opening up this hip and 45 degrees. Same principles as with the last thing where we're going to scissor those legs together. So from here, nice and tall, we're going to glide down to that first barrier, feeling a nice little stretch in there, and I'm going to scissor. Bringing that heel towards that back knee towards the heel, holding everything in, getting nice and tall through there. Remember to breathe. We're squeezing, 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 slowly relaxing, sinking into that next barrier. Once again, that squeeze, 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 squeeze. Good, holding it, slowly relaxing, sinking in. One last time, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Awesome, we're going to hold this one for a little bit longer because I've been talking so much. And then we're going to slowly relax and sink a little bit deeper in. From here, we're going to press through the ground up to that top position. We're going to have one more angle. So if you can open up to a full 90 degrees and still keep that hip stacked and not pike back, you can do that. If you don't have that, just open it up to whatever is a good angle for you. Okay? So we're going to open up that position. Once again, nice and tall. You're not going to have a lot of movement as that hip opens. So don't think that you need to sink super deep here. From here, we're going to glide in a little bit, and again, scissor. Bringing that heel to that back knee to the heel, keeping the long bones aligned, right? Make sure that knee doesn't start to creep in on you. Keep it open, keep it in line with the foot and with your hip. Slowly relax, sink a little bit deeper, and again, that scissor. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Good, holding that position. Slowly relaxing, sinking down. One last time, here we go. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Good, and relax, and sink in. And from here, we're pressing through the ground and squeezing back up to the top position. Beautiful. So we're going to go through the sequence on the other side as well. Make sure that we're all balanced out. So starting in that half kneeling position, getting nice and tall, clamping that front foot down, and here we go. Pulling yourself down to that first barrier, and we're going to scissor and squeeze. Make it burn. Awesome. Nice and tall, holding everything in, and then slowly down, sinking to that next barrier. Once again, squeeze, 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 squeeze. Good. Holding it, getting that burn, slowly relaxing, sinking a little bit deeper. Here we go. Last time. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Good. A little bit longer. Okay. Slowly take up that slack, sink a little bit deeper, and then we're gonna press through the ground back up to that start position. Opening up to that 45-degree angle. Here we go. Clamping that foot in, long bones aligned, making sure I'm extending through the hip and not flexing. We're gonna glide down to that first position. Again, that scissor, squeeze, 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 squeeze. Ooh, that's feeling super good. Nice little burn. Relax, sink a little bit deeper. And again, squeeze, 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 squeeze. Good. Holding that position, relaxing, sinking a little deeper. One last time. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Hold. A little bit longer. Okay, relax, sink, press out of that position. And then that final little barrier here, we're just going to open up to 90 degrees if you have that available to you. And repeat this process for those 3 repetitions. So slowly down into that open position. Again, we're going to squeeze, 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 squeeze. And slowly relax, sink a little bit deeper. Here we go. Rep number 2. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. And relax, take up that slack, that last little barrier. And keeping that hip open position, right? We're not flexing. You're squeezing now, holding it. Oh, everything's burning. It feels so good. Then we're going to relax, sink a little bit deeper. Press through that ground up to that top position. Beautiful. So from here, you can shake out those legs a little bit. And that is the hip edition of your hangover cure. So you guys, please feel free to leave comments and feedback for us because we'd like to keep doing this for you. All right? Have an awesome day.